Guys, is your future so bright you need to wear sunglasses? If not, listen to this episode because we're going to be diving in and talking about wealth from words. It's not just what you know, it's what you do with what you know that will impact how you grow your wealth, how that impacts your health and your wellness. And today I have a very special guest, Justin Maxwell. He is a financial expert, someone that really knows the nuts and bolts of what building wealth truly is and what it takes to not just know what to do, but to actually implement it for the long term. And that might not just be here during your life, but actually to impact generations to come. So today, as we go through these 5 points, we're going to talk about the 5 WORDS, 5 words that will impact everything with your wealth creation. And as you listen to this, you're going to have some ideas. What I'm going to invite you to do is to listen all the way to the end and see which one actionable insight will help you get to that next level. Because we're talking about leveling up, guys. We're always leveling up our mindset, skill set, and tool set so we can build impact, influence, and income. And today, we're really focusing in on income and not just making quick money. We're talking about building wealth. Because truly high income and high net worth individuals, they know how to build wealth long term, not just on the short term. Super stoked to have him on today. Welcome to the call, my good man, Justin. How you doing today?
Thank you, Brigham. Excited to be here. Thank you. Very eager.
Yes, super stoked to have you as well. Let's start off with this. We talk about wealth from words. You're a speaker. You talk about not just how to build wealth in a generic sense, but you have so many dynamic ways that you do that. Talk to us about what wealth from words means to you.
Yeah, I think for me, this actually just starts from the very beginning for me because I was a physical education teacher that was the plan. I wanted to be a college professor and I wanted to do that path, but it was the words of a speaker when I went to an event that unlocked a completely new path for me, the world of entrepreneurship, the world of what I'm now doing, this idea of creating wealth. And it was those words that unlocked it for me. So that's why I speak, is because I believe that words unlock the ability and opportunity, the possibility of a future for people that many times they haven't unlocked in themselves before. So the words unlock the ability to reach your potential future self.
Beautifully said. When I think of words, it often talks about how words create worlds. That's what I'm always thinking about. What are the worlds that I'm creating with the words that I intentionally put out into the universe? Today, we're going to be framing this up around wealth creation. And something you brought up while we were setting this up was a lot of high net worth individuals and those that are making a significant income are not actually building wealth. You want to talk to us about why that is?
Yeah. So again, I'll just go back to my beginning. So when I heard that speaker speak, I had this paradigm shift of I actually can create a profound impact on my family's lineage and I can create generational wealth. So I had assumed that business owners were doing that very frequently. I assumed that was the norm because I associated the high revenue businesses, the nice cars, the lavish lifestyles, the high income, that was equaling generational impact, generational wealth, generational change. But when I started working with business owners, I discovered very quickly that the vast majority of them had very high incomes. But when you looked at like their actual net worth, their balance sheets, the things of that nature, that wasn't true. Like they weren't actually creating wealth. They were just making lots of money. And that's great because you can live a great life. You can have lots of nice things. You can travel to the best places. But for me, what brought me into entrepreneurship was not money. It was this idea that I could make generational impact on my family's lineage, and then that would ripple effect into the world. So when that wasn't happening, that completely shook everything. That shook me to my core on what it actually was that I was doing. So that was the transcendent thing for me was most business owners, most people misassociate what wealth is. Wealth is the ability to continually reproduce your income without you having to work for it and create it. Most business owners are making lots of money, but if they stop working, all that money disappears. So it just is. We call it the financial hamster wheel, the financial treadmill. If you stop running, the money stops spitting out the back. So that is a very, very common problem that we see amongst business owners. And it really actually shocked me because I made an assumption that wasn't true.
I think that's such an important thing to realize, that when we are wanting to build wealth, we have to figure out what is an asset versus what is a liability. Many of us have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's one of the things that pops up in my head because I've had Sharon Lechter. She was one of the people that endorsed my book, Story Hook Method. She's written tons on the financial literacy sector and helped so many people be able to understand what the difference is between an asset, something that truly puts money in your pocket consistently, and something that is a liability, which takes money out of your pocket and costs you money. Talk to us about what you've discovered about building wealth as far as assets go, and how do you help someone that is maybe brand new, maybe they're a speaker, they're someone that's struggling to build assets that are recurring revenue. What would you give someone that maybe in their first few years of business? Talk to that brand new person, say, this is how you start building real wealth, and do it now, not later.
So great question. So I'm gonna phrase this with some, because people misunderstand this at times. So, and I'm gonna phrase this from the idea of a business owner, because even if you're a speaker, you still are a business owner. You're putting your product out there, which is your words on stage. You're like whoever you are, whether you're a real estate investor, you're a business owner. The issue that I find most often is that business owners assume just because my business pays me money that it also is an asset. But if you look at the data around business ownership and how business exits and how things work, 80% of businesses are never going to sell. So that means that you pair the 80% of business owners won't sell, and 80 to 90% of most business owners' net worth is trapped in that unsellable business. You have yourself a dilemma, because if most of your net worth is inside the business and I can't sell it without closing my doors, like I can't exit my business without closing it, and I'm not going to get any money for it. That means that most business owners' businesses are not built to actually be an asset. They're just an income source. And I realize that it is an asset, but most business owners are viewing their businesses as something I can sell someday, or something that I can create income from without me having to work. But that's just not the case. So is what I recommend people doing is two things. Number one is you build a business that has a clear exit trajectory and removes you from being the operator and produces income without you having to work for it. So most people don't get their businesses to that point, and that's the transition you have to make if you're going to make your business into an asset. Now, some people can't do that. It's hard to do that as a speaker, because you have to be the person that gets on stage, shares your framework, shares your methodology, shares your stories. So it's not possible for them to do that. So if that's you and you're in that boat, you have to deliberately pull off and create automations that drive the income you're producing into other people's assets, so that now you're starting to own things that will create income for you on its own. I recommend that you try and do your best to do both of those things at the same time, but sometimes it's not possible for some brand leaders and creators and content folks. It just isn't a reality of the situation. So you have to be extra deliberate around creating automations to drive income into purchasing of assets. And the issue that most people have is they overestimate their ability to save money, when the reality of our world is that most people don't save enough money to drive into assets to create a replication of how much money their job, their business produces for them. So their assets can't replicate the income they have, because they haven't put enough fuel into the purchasing of those, because they overestimate their ability to save. Most Americans save 4 to 5% of their income, which isn't even close to being able to replicate your current income. You're not going to be able to do it. You have to get as close to 20% or above as possible. So if I'm making $100,000 a year in net money, I need to be saving 20 grand a year into assets and into purchasing of assets, if I'm going to be able to give myself predictability around replicating my income.
Yeah. This reminds me of the analogy of, are you raising a chicken to lay eggs, or are you just stockpiling eggs? It's that accumulation mindset, stockpiling eggs versus I'm raising a chicken, I'm building a chicken farm, I'm raising as many of these hens as possible so that I can have them producing that egg farm. This is the simple version of what it is that I'm hearing from you. Anything to add to that?
No, that's a really great analogy. I really like it. And the issue, I'll just to really reiterate, because there are business owners that they think their business is a chicken or a hen that's going to produce more eggs. But technically, you're actually the one that's producing all the eggs, and you haven't got the money buying more hens to produce more eggs. So when you stop producing eggs, it all dries up and you haven't purchased anything that can do it. So business owners, you really have to be deliberate about creating and getting a hen to be your business, not you be the egg producer. So you have to get something else to do it. And then the principle's the same for everyone else is you got to get your dollars buying more hens to produce more eggs. And most people don't do that at a high enough rate.
Amazing. I think of this as the cash flow quadrant. If you guys have ever heard about that, where you have an employee, that's one way to make money. You have a self-employed individual, which is what a lot of the challenges are as a speaker, is that's pretty much you're self-employed until you have systems as a business owner, that the system is what's making money. And then you take that money and you can put it into investments, and investments, that's where your money is purchasing more money. And you can make money in every single one of these. And if you're a great business owner, I remember Sharon Lecter brought this up. She's like, I still make money in all 4 of those areas. It's just when I make money, as soon as I can, I put it into the investment side, because then it is not tied to me at all. Or I can put it into my business, because then it's not dependent upon me. It's dependent on how well that system is run to churn out more income. If it's only on the speaking side, that's your self-employed individual. That makes it so, depending on how well you can drive interest to your presentation, that will determine how much you're going to get paid and how good of a problem you can solve on stage. Any thoughts on that?
No, the Robert Kiyosaki really, there's a reason that framework is lasted for decades and decades and decades, because it really is the reality of the situation. The thing that I want, again, I'm just trying to reiterate for business owners, is oftentimes they're overestimating that their business is actually not run by them. So they're actually technically still, for a lot of business owners, in the self-employed bucket, and they think they're in the business bucket, and they're actually not. If they stop showing up, the revenue drops. If they stop producing, if they stop leading, the whole thing falls apart. You want to get it to where you are involved, but it actually is running and generating revenue without your decision making, without you being on stage, without you telling employee X to do A, B, and C. Like, you have to be able to get it to the point where it truly is operationally independent of you if you want it to be in that category. And my experience is a lot of business owners, though they have teams, they have systems, they're actually self-employed in the mask of a business. And that is the reason that's such a problem is that you're expecting an end result of wealth in the future, and it just doesn't ever come to pass for most people. So I love what she said there, and what Robert's done a great job at producing that. So
absolutely. So just to summarize what we just talked about, high income doesn't equal wealth. That is so essential to understand. And when you're building real assets, it comes down to, are you building the system that can be independent of you? I like the way that you brought this up, Justin. It is a owner that is not the operator. It is the owner who is the investor. Can you define what you mean by that? And then we'll go on to the next topic.
Yeah, so I have a quadrant that I like to use as well. So it starts out as self-employed. I'm by myself. I'm a speaker. I'm self-employed with employees. I'm an owner. I'm a CEO in my business. So I'm still involved. I still make decisions. I'm still integrated into it. But I'm at a stage where the systems are actually starting to work for me without me having to go out and make the sales, close things, be the everything type person. And then the last category I call the owner investor. And the reason I call this is now you're actually at a board level view of your business, and your business is just one of the assets in your portfolio that you are now viewing through the lens of an investor. And investors are, how do I protect the asset value? How do I grow the asset value? How do I ensure that this is going to continue to produce cash flow for me? And I'm not making decisions inside the business. I'm making them above it. So I'm making decisions on, should we go acquire this other company and bolt them onto us? Or should we partner with this person so that we can get more cash flow so that it spits off more for me and my inside of it, but I'm above the entire operation. It operates solely without me, and all my decisions are from a board level, investor level view. And I think that that's the transcendent area of where business owners can get to. I don't want to make it seem like it's easy to get to that level, but if we can get there, now we are operating with true, in that last category of what Robert created with his investor. My business is like, I'm running the whole thing from that top of the lens view. And I'm just, I'm trying to protect what I've made and continue to grow it at my pace without me being deeply involved.
Excellent. That is such a great summary. I love your quadrant. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing it. When we're looking at what true wisdom is, we're going to be talking about words, W-O-R-D-S. This is the W in this. Talking about true wisdom when it comes to wealth. What are some of the things or an example that come to mind when you're saying this is what wisdom is, which is knowledge plus the experience versus here's just some interesting information. You speak from stage, Justin. You talk about real life examples. What's a wise way to build wealth and build that wisdom rather than just, hey, this is cool to know about?
Yeah. So I think the way I like to view this is through this idea of most people are focused on the money aspect, not what the money can do aspect. So what does the money give me the permission to accomplish? So is what the best scenario, a sample I can give you of what this looks like is there'll be business owners who make tremendous amounts of wealth, have 8-9-figure net worths. They'll create a generational legacy trust estate structure. And then the kids, the grandkids consume it within the data is astronomically terrible. Like if now 9 figures is a little much to consume, but most people's money that gets passed is gone in 8 years. So it's gone. All the money they create, all the wealth they accumulated, gone in 8 years. For the people that get 9 figures, it's going to take another generation to be gone, but it's gone. It's completely consumed. So you had all this wealth, all this value created by you, and then it's all consumed by the next generation because people are focused on the money, not what the money can do. So is what I want you to shift from is I'm defining the life that I want to live with absolute clarity. I want to be living in this type of house. I want to be doing this much giving away of my money. I want to be doing this with my time. These are the people I'm hanging out with. This is the impact I'm leaving. I'm spending time. I'm donating to this organization, these colleges, these things. I'm doing this thing. You define that. Once you define it, now you have a target of how much money do I need to live that life. Now I have a purpose for what the money can do. And too many people don't define what it is they want the money to do. So they make it all because they haven't defined what it is they want the money to do. It just gets spent because there's no definition of what it is. But I encourage people to actually push this even further into, I define it 150 years from now, what it is we're doing. Because now I have to get my family integrated into the estate planning. It's not my money, it's our money. So what is the impact that our money is going to do in the future? What are we doing with it? How are we behaving? How are we helping people? How are we growing it? How are we defending it? How are we helping the world become better? And too many people don't define that. That's why the money disappears, is because there's no definition for what you want to do and the impact you want to leave. So the wisdom that I think is really important is money doesn't matter. It's what the money gives you the permission to do. And so define what it is you want it to do, who you want to be, who you want to help, and you're going to have a lot more success at keeping it, growing it, perpetuating it.
Beautiful. I was wondering, do you have a specific example that comes to mind of someone that you're like, they really took this wisdom that I've shared with them and just made a massive transformation? Is there any examples that come to mind of someone that like, if you wanted to model great behavior, like the Rockefellers is the one that pops into my mind, but what's one that comes from your perspective or one that you know of? You're like, these are the people that have been building generational wealth and doing it right.
Yeah. So I apologize, I don't know their name, but they've written a book on it. I loved it, and it's just slipping my mind. But the owner of Hobby Lobby, if you look at the owner of Hobby Lobby and how they're thinking around generational wealth, you'll really enjoy what they say, because it's very much focused on, we've defined what we're going to do with our money, how much money we're giving away, why we're giving it away, etc. You'll really enjoy them. And I apologize that that whole person's name and book is slipping my mind, because it was a while ago when I thought about it, but they gave me the idea around the model that I just shared with you. So that would be someone to model, because oftentimes the Rockefellers, they're thrown around in every little thing. Everyone says Rockefellers do this or that, but that is actually someone that's alive right now who's created astronomical generational family level wealth inside of themselves, where they're not, their whole family's involved in the wealth in the process. So that'd be someone that you can also consider looking at that I really enjoy. I can't remember, these people's names are slipping my mind at the moment. Let me see if I can find his name, because he's really good.
No worries. Well, one of the things that also comes to mind with me when we're talking about wisdom. Oh, you got it? Go ahead.
No, I don't have it, unfortunately.
Okay, no worries. When we're talking about wisdom, is this idea that if you want true generational wealth, you focus on what can I help instill in my kids and my kids' kids as far as the words and the meaning behind these words. What are you creating in their life so that you're helping them be able to understand how to create wealth, not just consume? I think this is a key distinction, especially in your estates and in your trusts. If it's only this is where the money goes and not, hey, how are we going to be building more assets? How can I help you become financially literate so that you know how to take care of the thing that we just built? That is so important, because generational wealth for me is not just money. It's not just the assets you build. It's how to help your kids, your kids' kids, and your family be able to help build more and more assets. Help them see what is possible and make a positive impact in the world. Go ahead, Justin. You got something on your mind?
Yeah, I think I really resonated with what you said there, because it's so vital. There's a gentleman that I really encourage people to follow when it comes to how do I get my kids to be invested into what we're doing as a family. Nothing to do with money, just what we stand for as a family, who we are, how we represent ourselves, what are our values, what things do we do together, what are our traditions. His name is Rich Christensen. And he has a company called the Legato Family Framework. It's the best I've ever seen when it comes to helping families do that at a high level. But I actually, when you were speaking, what connected to me was this idea of like, if you're looking backwards at like the biblical times, like they were building. That's all that's not why, but they were trying to be connected to God through specific doctrines and procedures. And it was this carrying forward of what was being built from the past, but everyone was connected and living into that. And our society today doesn't do that at all. Every family is kind of like their own individual entity. And it's like everyone fends for themselves. And it's like you kick your kids out at 18 and everyone has to kind of figure it out. I really like the idea of it's our wealth, it's our family. And we're all doing this as one unit, not just we have to fend for ourselves. It doesn't mean individuals can't and shouldn't, like people should be able to should just get things because they don't earn it, but you should be connecting the family traditions and what you're doing as a family to the overall outcomes of the family, not to the individual.
Great. Wise words, literally. Excellent. Going on to this next section, I feel like the organization of your wealth is almost as important as knowing how to create it. Because if you don't have it in good containers and you don't have a way that it is organized in a way that others can use it and tap into it, it can be very frustrating. I remember my dad years ago, he was talking about how sometimes insurance money feels like funny money because you can only use under very specific guidelines. A lot of times when you're building wealth, you have different buckets, and the way you organize it will determine what you can purchase and what will help it grow and what will make it so that it's protected. So you have to have that balance between protection and growth. Talk to us about the organization of wealth and why that's so important.
Yeah, this is very vital. I love the word that you chose there, because it really is, the organization matters greatly. We like to use the word financial operating system. So you have to create an operating system within the way you develop. So when I earn money from my X source, my business, my W-2 job, where does it go after that? If you haven't mapped out the process and the flows and systems of different, if I earn more money in 1 month, the flow over goes here. Parkinson's law will eat whatever is left, because if there's space, our human condition and the nature of everything that we have, it will be eaten by consumption. So you'll spend it on just random things because it's available. So create a flow, a structure, an organization that drives it into spending and into investing and into savings, into asset creation. And you're going to create a much better flow. But even beyond that, if that's just like the flow of money, what you're describing is even bigger than that, of what also organized around it do I also have to have? So I encourage people to have an organizational advisory team that's aligned to the vision that you create. So I don't try, because a mistake that people make is I can always do it better than everyone else. So then they don't hire anyone. But again, all that is you're stuck in the self-employed bucket that we talked about earlier. Even though it's not necessarily around making money, if you think you can do everything on your own, you're going to be in that category forever. And there's a ceiling to what you can produce if you try and do everything yourself. So when people try to do all their investing themselves, when they try to do all their taxes themselves, when they try to do all their insurance themselves, when they try to just be this expert of all things finance, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. So what you have to do is you have to find advisors who aren't going to take you to where they take all their clients. They're aligned to your vision, and then you're leveraging their skills to help your vision come to pass sooner, so that you're creating an organizational team around you that helps you get to there sooner. And then another layer on that is, what is the structure of everything? So what entities do I have to have? What types of trust do I have to have at different levels? So this is, I would call it like a 3-level approach of, I first have to get the organization around my money. I then have to get the organization around the advisors and team that I have around me. And then I have to have the organization around the entities that I have. And that top layer doesn't have to happen all at once. Too many people jump in, they're thinking generationally, and they want an irrevocable trust, and they want a revocable trust, and they want like 16 different entities, but they're only making like $100,000 a year. That just doesn't make sense. So get the money right first, get the team right second, and then when your net worth is approaching 5-10 million, then you can get really complex and make it all nice and fun and cool. But we have an organizational plan to it, and I think that will help people create predictability. Because can you create wealth without organization? You can, like, it can happen. But I always ask people that, can it happen? Yes, but is it probable? And the answer to that question is no for most people. So I want to create probability, and I create probability by creating organization.
Beautiful. One of the things that I also want to bring up is, when I'm thinking specifically for speakers and those that are wanting to be as wonderfully impactful as possible from stage and impacting their stories, the way that you organize your content will dramatically impact how rememberable or memorable it is. If you have something that is unstructured, it makes it difficult for anyone to understand what you're talking about. But as soon as you have a structure and an organization that, one, makes sense and it's in a simple enough framework that others can implement it, now your words can go create impact because they're memorable. And the stories attached to it will make it so that it goes into their soul rather than just into their head. That's one of the reasons why when I'm on my podcast, I like to structure things with mnemonics, like what we're doing today. The W is for wisdom, the O is for organize, and this next one is for reality. As we go through words, you'll get these. It all comes down to, how can I make this more memorable? And you get that structure, and now you have a way in your mind almost to file the information as it comes. So what are your thoughts about that before we move on to the reality of creating wealth?
Yeah, you've nailed it really well. It's an extraordinary analogy, because I find that truth is truth. And so truth carries across. So if we're going to organize our talks to be transformational, can it happen if we're not organized? Yes, it can. Like, you could, because you could be a dynamic speaker, and the way you said something in that moment is probably going to produce a result. But could you repeat that over and over again? Probably not, because it's not replicable. So organization creates repeatability, and it creates probability.
Beautifully said. Now, when we're talking about reality, this is the truth, not a convenient idea or something that is cool to know about, but the truth and the reality of wealth building is, you have to create true value, and you have to figure out what is a problem that somebody wants solved and is willing to pay for, that you can solve through a product or a service. That's what business truly is. The purpose of business is to create profit. So talk to us of the reality from your perspective of what wealth creation is.
The reality of wealth creation is that it's available to everyone. And that's I think that if we I don't think that that's what the founders of America were trying to solve, but they really unlocked something that made it more replicatable in the United States than anywhere else in the world has ever seen, was this idea that anyone with an idea has the openness to just create the solution for people. And the reality of it is that it really just like I sometimes people always discount this. It's like you have to believe it. Like you have to believe that I have an idea that can solve it. You believe it so much that you're not going to give up when you encounter your first roadblock, your first hump, your first the first failure of what happens. And it's probably going to happen at some level where you're actually creating enough value to start to live a life that you want to live and make enough money from it. It might not be scalable, but you could actually create a nice life from it. But the reality is that wealth creation is available to everyone. It's not subject to just the ultra wealthy. You don't have to, like, I don't want to disparage the entire country, but India is a caste system. It's very hard to jump around in India. Like, you are who you are. But the reality is that in the world we live in the United States, we can create whatever we want to create. We just have to be determined enough to go seek it. And the mindset of it is the first hurdle that you have to conquer. If you don't have the mindset, it's going to be very difficult to ever get past anything, and you'll just live the life that you're currently living, and that could be great for you. But if you truly want wealth, you can create it, and it's open up to everyone.
Absolutely. One of the ways that I've been able to expand my reality by understanding truth is by hiring amazing mentors. We talked a little bit about who's on your team and the associations that you have. If you have people that are surrounding you that are $100 million earners, they will be able to help guide you in a way that people that are making $5 million a year won't be able to. They have a completely different set of expectations and reality. But when you see what's possible and you're talking with people that are in the work doing it, the reality for anybody is if you follow the right processes and you do it at the right time, and it's based on your own experiences and those that are helping you cut timeframes with your mentors, you can get duplicatable results because success leaves clues. It's like plants that have these seeds. When you see a successful oak tree that has grown to its fulfillment, it's huge, it's putting all these little acorns everywhere. You plant that acorn, you water it, you follow the natural process and the law, eventually it will grow because it's reality, it's the truth. If you don't follow the process or you skip some steps, it might grow for a time and then it may wither and get stunted and die. It's not that the process didn't work, is that you didn't follow the process and there were maybe some steps that you skipped. What are your thoughts on that idea of getting mentors and increasing your possibilities and probabilities by having mentors in your corner?
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I agree with that process thing too. So I'm a big fan of, so I think the way I like to view mentors is, and advisors, just people around you who are helping you with things, is I want someone that's aligned with me. So I think that you as an individual first need to define it as who you are and what you want to create. And then you can now see clearly on the mentors that are in alignment with you. So you can now choose the ones that are going to help you get to your level. I think sometimes we see someone that's a great mentor to someone else, but they're actually not aligned with our values, our systems, and what we want. And so they actually could be a good mentor, and they are a great mentor, just not to you. So you have to figure out who you are first and who you want to be. And I realize that that's a very heavy statement, but if you want things to happen in the future, you have to spend the work doing it. So you can't just avoid it. So figure out who you are, what it is you want to create in this world, where you want to end up, and who your mentors will become very much more clear. And I've created a pathway. This isn't a very specific pathway, but it is a step-by-step process of what I've seen is what separates people who create generational wealth as business owners versus those that don't. And I call it the family office framework. So there's 5 things that family offices do that give more probability to create the outcome. So number 1 is again, the family knows what it is they want and where they want to go. Yeah. Number 2, they have advisors around them who are aligned to that vision. So I'm not hiring anyone and everyone. I have advisors who are aligned to that vision, and I'm going to leverage to get to that vision. Number 3, I have a business as a clear exit trajectory, and it is my biggest and best asset. Number 4, I use the tax code to accelerate my wealth. And number 5, I view protecting my wealth with just as much urgency as I do with accumulating my wealth.
Okay.
So those 5 things are what separate families that create generational wealth with probability and those that don't.
That's beautiful. So let me recap that so that I can make sure I got it. So the first thing is making sure you've got the vision right with your family. The second thing was what?
The advisors are aligned to that vision.
Advisors. Okay.
All
Advisors.
my accountant, my attorneys,
Mhm.
my insurance advisors, my investment advisors, anyone that's going to help me get on that journey, they're all on board with me doing that. So I tell them my vision, and
Mhm.
I want to know how they're going to help me get to that vision. But everyone's aligned to it, and they all communicate together. So they're not working in silos. It's a cohesive unit, all in harmony with me. So I'm the leader of it, but we're shaking together. Number three is that my business is my biggest and best asset and has a clear
Biggest
exit
asset.
trajectory. Number four is that I leverage the tax code to accelerate my wealth. So I'm saving taxes deliberately on an annual basis to drive it back into asset creation. And number five is I protect my assets with just as much urgency as I accumulate my assets.
Beautiful. So it's building it with your intention, your vision, aligning people to that vision, and then making sure you're protecting it using taxes and also structure so that it's not just building it, it's protecting it in the long run. Great way to think about this. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great framework. How did you come up with that?
It was just my observation of that was so when I noted. So again, I was shocked to the core on business owners weren't creating this outcome. I wanted to figure out what were the people that were creating the outcome doing. Were they just lucky, or did they do something repeatable? And when you said that word repeatable, that really resonated with me, because is there a path that can be followed at a base level that people can replicate? And that's what I discovered.
Excellent. Now, one of the things with this words idea is you have to be able to make decisions, not just respond to things. So talk to us about how building wealth is a decision, not just something you react to.
It is 100% a decision. I make deliberate decisions to deliberately save taxes on an annual basis. I make a deliberate decision to know exactly where I'm going. I make a decision on who I'm hiring. It's not my advisor's fault because things don't work out. It's my fault because I didn't do enough due diligence. Like, I'm the decision maker. Everything stops with me. Things are going to go well. Things are going to go badly. It's always my fault. I'm not too upset about it, and I'm going to learn from things. But I made the decision that the outcomes are on me, not anyone else around me. And so people that create the wealth they want have made that decision that it's on them and no one else. And everyone in their ecosystem is who you made the decision to hire. So if it doesn't work out, it's your fault to make it happen. So the decision is paramount.
That's beautiful. I think of decision as this: a good decision made at the right time is better than the best decision made too late. That's by my mission president, Mike Herr. And this idea of making timely decisions and saying, well, I have enough information that I can make a quality decision, that takes a lot of pressure off for making the perfect decision.
Yeah.
This next thing is I want to make sure that we show proof of this. You talk about when you're on your keynotes, you want to focus in on true case studies. What is one that comes to mind that, like, hey, let me show you proof that if you follow what these people that are building generational wealth do, that you will also have similar results. Show us some proof that this works.
Yeah, so I'm going to share a story of a man. He owns his own family office. The thing I like about him is he grew up in a trailer park. He was the first person in his family to go to college. He was the highest paid person in his entire family by a long shot because he worked a high paying corporate job. He left that to start his own business because he had this idea of generational wealth and the things we're talking about today. Every step of that journey, he was called crazy. He was crazy to go to college, crazy to work corporate, crazy to leave the high paying job because he was doing everything outside the family norms. And yet today, his net worth is just under $1 billion.
Wow.
But the thing that I love about him is he teaches that fourth principle of accelerating, using the tax code to accelerate wealth at a premium. So what he did is he moved to Puerto Rico. His effective tax rate is 2%. He saves about $18 million a year in taxes, but he takes the $18 million and drives it right back into his family office. He's added about at least $200 million to his net worth alone because he takes the money he saves in taxes and drives it back into his wealth machine. So he's accelerated his wealth a lot faster. Like, he shouldn't be, like, he hasn't had a major exit. He hasn't done anything dramatic. He's honestly just a real estate investor. So he's doing things at a faster pace because he accelerates his taxes, but he does great things. So I just love that story because it's the epitome of everything we've been talking about today. someone that came from nothing, chose to do it, chose to go against the family norms, and then went forward and created it.
Absolutely. It sounds like you got a little guy that wants to say hello. No worries. Well, one of the things that I always like to ask my guests right close to the end of the show, because we've had a lot of wonderful things we've talked about. We talk about the words that build wealth and wealth from words. You've got wisdom, we've got organization, we've got focusing on reality, we've got building off of real decisions and then showing proof that it works. We can find so many different case studies of people that are truly building generational wealth. And the example you brought up was fantastic. One of the things that I want to share is this idea of sharing stories that are impactful. You brought up that gentleman. The significant element of that for me was anybody from any walk of life, if you know what to do and you do it with consistency, you can start to create true impact in your life and the life of others. What that means for you, as far as translating this, everyone, is when you know what to do and you implement it consistently, you will have more confidence to walk with purpose. You will have more confidence in your business to make sales, and really making a sale is transferring that confidence and belief in what your product or service is and how it adds value to that person and solves a real need. And when we're focusing in on the objective here, this is what was the purpose of even sharing all this. We want to inspire, uplift, and specifically build impact, influence, and income for you so that you can make the shifts in your life that are necessary to be your very best. And then as we relive all these different ideas, the thing that comes to mind with this is just how amazing our opportunity is here in America. And the call to action for this, guys, that yes, at the end of this is what can you do today based on our conversation to level up yourself just a little bit? What is the one thing that you took away from this? There's so many different ideas that we had. What is the one thing that you can do today to make that shift? Maybe you need to get a mentor. Maybe you need to interact with someone and talk about your taxes. Maybe you just need to get your own vision for your family. Whatever that looks like, actually do it. Now, Justin, you've heard my framework. We talked about this. Why do people want to listen to this episode, and how has the story hook method been able to impact the way that you showed up here and the confidence level, being able to disseminate this information?
Yeah, I think the reason people would want to listen to this is there's someone out there who's just like me, who was sitting in a room being a teacher, thinking that this was unconscious, but it was this idea that my potential income is capped. Like there's a scale of how teachers make money and you pretty much know what you're going to make every year. Maybe there's some bumps, but I had a capped ceiling potential and I didn't want anything to do with generational wealth. And I think that people, why they want to listen to this is because there's going to be something in here that unlocks who they are and what their potential is that they've never thought of before. They could just be starting out like I was and just be a W-2 person and trapped in this world where I didn't think I had the ability to move into upper echelons of society and upper echelons of impact. Or it could be someone who is a business owner operating at a high level, but just needed that one twist of, I actually need to shift into not just earning money, but actually building wealth and connecting it to my family. That could change someone's life. So the reason you want to listen to this is there's going to be something in here that's going to unlock potential in you that you haven't thought of before.
Excellent. And then what has it meant for you being part of this process, connecting with me, not just on the podcast, but in general?
Yeah. So I think I really love the framework that you've created here because it makes it digestible and it makes it in a way that I can actually, like the way you structure the podcast, the way you organize the words and you built this out was in a way that now we can have a really good conversation and still make a transformative impact on the audience. So for me, it was very helpful to have a host that didn't just want to just talk about stuff and ask random questions, but to have organization to it was very helpful. So that's the impact it had on me.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Justin. I know you said you have a cool giveaway. Do you want to talk to them about what they're going to get when they go to biglifefinancial.com/tax-strategy?
Yeah. So one of the fastest ways I have found for business owners to make an impact, because we talked about a lot of stuff today, and a lot of it's going to take a lot of time. Like if you're trying to identify where it is we want to go, that doesn't happen in an instant. It shouldn't happen in an instant. My trajectory is zigzag and it keeps changing over time of where I'm going, but I'm still moving towards the goal I set, but it doesn't happen in an instant. But one of the fastest ways that you can make an impact on your wealth situation, to have more money and capital to buy more assets, is to deliberately tax plan. And a lot of people think they have a great accountant or are assuming my accountant saves me money in taxes, but they actually don't know. So it's what we like to offer here at biglifefinancial.com/tax strategy or tax-strategy is a complimentary review of your taxes. And we can tell you, this is what your accountant has missed. Here's how much that cost you. Or your accountant has done all these things and you have a great person, but now you have the reiteration that my person is doing what they need to do to help me save the money that I have, because people realize this, but that's your money. You earn that money. You create the value to create it. And so when you send it to the IRS when you don't have to, you're just giving it away for no reason. So you keeping it allows you to control it, allows you to buy more assets, allows you to reach your wealth aspirations faster. But oftentimes my experience is people don't know. So that is a free complimentary gift that we're giving to your whole audience. They can sign up. We can do a 3-year review. We can tell you what you've missed or what you've done great on. And you can just have the reassurance that I'm doing what's well, or I need to make some changes. And then you'll know what changes to make. And then if you feel like we're a good fit, you can hire us to be that change maker, or you can go find someone that can help you do it. But you're going to know. It's about the knowledge here, because there's a lot of ignorance around taxes in our world. Beautiful.
So just to reiterate, guys, if you want one of those tax strategies, go to biglifefinancial.com/tax-strategy. You'll get to connect with Justin and his team. Phenomenal opportunity. And guys, there's no reason not to do that. That's an amazing gift. Thank you so much, Justin, for your generosity, for being here today, for sharing your love with the Leveling Up Podcast Nation. So thankful for you. Guys, as a final note, if you have not been able to get your 3 reasons stage fright costs and why you must fix it, that free download gives you so much opportunity to connect deeply with me. And what that does for you is it makes it so you can build more impact, influence, and income by overcoming the things that inhibit you from opening your mouth and sharing your message. Justin, thanks for opening up and pouring into the audience. You're a great speaker. Really appreciate the kindness and the deliberate stories that you share. So powerful. Really grateful to have you on today. Guys, go to brigham.com/3 to get your 3 reasons stage fright costs. And we'll see you again next Thursday. God bless.